morning and welcome to Viva Cafe con Leche. I am Dr. Lori Monaco, the badass Buddha. I'm not seeing us live. Are you seeing us live?
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. Well, good morning. I'm not seeing us live. For some odd reason, it's not popping up. But good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Viva Cafe con Leche. Yes, I am the badass Buddha. I am your holistic practitioner, chiropractic physician, aligning your spine, aligning your nervous system. I am your transformational and mindfulness coach, speaker, and workshop facilitator, and weight loss, fat eviction specialist. So welcome, and coming from sunny Southern Connecticut.
Well, welcome. Good morning. Buenos días. Mi gente, aquí con la Margarita, coming to you from chilly Tampa, Florida. Here I am with look at my taza de café. I am your spiritual and creative healing life coach. I am your magically orgasmic goddess who is in awe of herself. I am the gladiator guru, and welcome to Viva Cafe con Leche, mi gente. Namaste.
Namaste, everyone. So how is everything? Tell us about some coffee before we do our intention and our mantra. So go ahead. I love when you do this part.
And then you put me on the spot and all my creativity goes poof.
No pressure.
Today I am just drinking Café La Llave with my monk fruit. And here I have my Ajusta tu Corona mug. Lillian in Francia, here we go. And this is my second sip of the morning. And everybody knows that when that coffee hits my tongue, it sends electricity through my body. It is my natural orgasm of the morning. It greets me with love and passion. And it sets my day because café es vida. I was watching, I don't know if Jolivet is on, but yesterday she's creating her own tea. So for those tea lovers, go see Jalisa Creations on Facebook. She's making her own tea globes.
She is something. I've looked at some of her. First of all, she made a mug for my kid's dad, and it's really it came out really nice. And then she pops up these pictures of her chocolates, like she's doing like fat bombs and all this stuff, because I know she's a keto person, and it's just like really freaking, it's like makes you just totally want to cheat on anything that you're not supposed to be eating. So that's very cool that she's doing tea, and I could just see you guys at some point collaborating, in the future in some way, somehow, like for like an event,
Yeah, she is amazing with the things she comes out. And yesterday she was demonstrating. She made this globe out of sugar, and it has like edible glitter in it, and a tea bag that she created. She filled it with herbs in it. And I think she said she's creating different tea bags, and it has different remedies for you. So she dropped it in a glass mug, poured the boiling hot water over it, and it was beautiful how the globe melted, the glitter was floating with the tea bags and some of the loose teas in it. And then I had to go take a shower. But I just want to say, if you're a tea lover, go visit Jalisa Creations, because she is awesome. All that stuff is awesome. And the mug that the badass Buddha's talking about here's my mug that Jolly created for me out of my book, So Searching for Peace. So there's the tree.
Yeah, she's very good. Like she, you give her the idea, or you kind of guide her, and then she runs with it, and it's really nice, So, and it keeps it, here, like local, right?
It does. Now, can I finish a description of my mug?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, maron. So here you see the power of pussy. She took little
You just
snippets.
Let's see. That's all.
Snippets from my book, and she put it here, and I just love it. and I'm always using my mug, my tumbler. So yeah, it's a beautiful Tuesday morning. It is now the second week of January, correct? Or am I like behind the 8 ball over here? And
Yeah.
yeah. So here we are. We're all in it together, mi gente. Let's just brace ourselves for what's to come. They can't wait till this inauguration is over. And
oh my God, this is like this is the weirdest shit I've ever seen in my life. It's unprecedented. This has been an unprecedented 12 months. Like, I know we're in a new year, but if you take it from like one whole year, it's been the craziest thing. First times for everything. We've never lived in the modern world in a pandemic. Well, modern world. I mean, we did in the early 1900s, but you know what I mean. We've never seen a presidential thing like this ever before. And we're not going to get into politics, but it's just some wild shit that we're living through. Truly, like, we are living history.
It's kind of scary is what it is.
Yes, I agree. Because the newspaper this morning said, prepare for armed protests for the day of the inauguration. I'm like, or just in general.
Yeah. Yes. But there, you know, there's going to be those people, those sit at your kitchen table and talk who's going to blame everything on the blue. But yes, so I want to give some shout outs if you don't mind. I know you're writing.
Nope, go ahead.
Okay.
Got a keyboard, you guys, so now I'm not looking at my phone as much. When I look at my phone, it's because I'm like making comments. I still have to put little hearts on stuff, but I like this better. I like this. We're getting more and more professional. This is it. This is the year for Viva, and the year for Gladiator Guru, and the year for Badass Buddha.
There you go. So good morning, good morning.
Out loud.
You don't shut the hell up this morning. Good morning, Michelle. Good morning, Tiffany Bryant. Buenos dias. Good morning, Iritza. Oh, here it is. Hello. I don't know where that was coming or going. Janine Mullins, good morning. Bridget, P.O.P. Bridget would never say the power of pussy, so she just says P.O.P.
Oh, is that what that is? That's so funny.
Yes, always since wow, a couple years ago. Karen Marie, buenos dias. Eileen Denny. Yes, good morning.
Oh my God.
Michelle Houston, say happy birthday, Lori.
I know, I'm trying to get back to everybody. Who'd I leave out? Eileen.
So yeah, so
I want to say one thing before we get started. So Iritza, so what a small freaking world. So I didn't realize that. So when it was Gwen's birthday, we, Viva posted happy birthday. We're going to try. We are making every effort to make sure that whenever we see a tribe member's birthday pop up, that we want to acknowledge that it's their birthday. So we posted Gwen's birthday, happy birthday to Gwen. And all this time I kept saying to myself, it's funny. The only Gwen I've ever known, like the name, I never knew her last name, was my oldest daughter, her mom's friend. So before anybody goes, your oldest daughter's mom's friend. So were you a lesbian in a different life? No. My oldest daughter is my stepdaughter, but I never refer to her that way. So we always joke, her mom and I, that we're like, the two, we're the moms, like we're a couple. But so anyway, all of a sudden I see a picture pop up that Iritza puts in, and it's you, Gwen, and Anna. And I was like, oh my God, that's so funny. So I've been hearing about Gwen for like 15 plus years. I mean, I've known Anna for almost 20 years. And then Iritza pops in, and then all of you guys are connected to Gladiator Guru. So all this time, like, I didn't even know, like, this circuit. It's just, I love when stuff like that happens. I love how connected we all are. And you could sit there and say, well, we all live in the same area. Yeah, but yes and no. It's like I've lived in sheltered for most of my life in this part of Connecticut. And there's people I never even ever ran into or anything, you know, so it's just, I love coincidences like that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's neat.
It is. Good morning, Kimberly Sanchez. She said I forgot her. I'm so sorry. I'm
Let me put that in.
trying to scroll up, and so buenos dias, mi gente.
All right. So what do you want to do, my lovely gladiator guru? Shall we get going with?
Well, there really is no coincidence, and once we stop thinking it like that, then we would really embrace every opportunity we have when we meet somebody. Even the bad people, the people who either cause us pain or discomfort or embarrassment, there's a reason for that. So yeah, it is funny. Life is funny.
Oh, Migs is on too. I don't want to forget anybody. I'm having fun doing this. I love, you know, Gladiator Guru, and I love acknowledging all of you for coming on, because without you, we wouldn't, you know, we'd be just talking to ourselves, which is not hard for us to do, but it's so much more fun when you're all here and engaging with us, right, Gladiator? We talk about it all the time. When we hang up and we've had like this massive conversation with all of you and everybody's been engaged, we're like so fired up. Like, as soon as we hang up, the first thing, this is what Gladiator Guru says. Soon as we click end broadcast, she goes, "Oh my God, I loved it." That's what she said.
I sound like that, girl.
And especially, yes, you do. And especially when we have a lot of engagement from you guys. So this is really great. We love it. So what do you want to do, Guru? You want to do, we'll do our intention for today, and then we'll get rocking and rolling. What do you think?
Yes. And Migs is my brother. Hello, brother. And thank you for coming on. Absolutely.
All right. So I got the intention. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the intention today is make the day beautiful and be alive in the beauty. Make the day beautiful and be alive in the beauty. That's the intention for today. No matter what happens, make the day beautiful and be alive in the beauty.
That's beautiful, because mine is, what is meant to be will find its way.
Oh my God, they complement each other.
So what is meant to be will find its way. So don't give up. I think anytime I listen to something like that, I read it, it is just a reminder. What is that they say? Right when you're about to give up, your miracle is right around the corner. Don't, just...
I needed to hear that today.
Yes. So it's like if it's meant to be, it's gonna come. And the biggest mistake we make is we plan it according to our time, and it's the universe's time.
Yeah, I think you can. I mean, as a coach, we teach people to trust in the process. We teach people to create their intentions. We teach people to have faith. And it doesn't have to be connected to any type of religion if you're not a religious person. But it's to trust in the process. But it's not a bad thing to make time limits in a way. Not wait a minute, let me rephrase. Not make time limits, but set a time. Because sometimes the universe needs a little push, but it's all about clarity. And that's what I've learned last year for me, is that I still have challenges with not so much with the clarity, but stating it on being clear on a daily basis with what I want, instead of flip-flopping back and forth. So last year for me, a lot of stuff happened, but there was so much flip-flopping that I would get ahead and then take a step back, and then I'd get ahead and take a step back. So this is the year for me, is 2021, is to say, okay, it's crunch time, go time, and it's to stay focused and trust in that process, like Guru said. And the universe has the plan, but actually the universe has several plans. We just got to pick the path to go on. And some paths are easier than others, and some paths more challenging on purpose and not always on purpose. But we just have to really trust in that and go out in our day, like she said, and just be.
Yeah, I don't care what road you take. I don't care what your belief system is. Once you start something, see it through. Like don't give up halfway because it's getting too difficult, or the fog is too thick that morning, or it's raining out, or whatever. Anything that is so easy to say, oh, I can't do it right now because of this. Just don't give up, because it is. You have to meet halfway. It all goes back to in simpler terms. Whenever I talk about the universe, I'm talking about God. He's my universe. But the thing is, they say when you want to make him laugh, make plans. Because ultimately we have a purpose. So within that purpose, we get so caught up in life, in the daily grind, and all this social media pushing this item and that item and this lifestyle and this diet, and then we just end up following the masses, right? So just be firm in what your plan is, pray on it, and then see the damn thing through. Because if it's for you, it's gonna happen. If you keep going this extra mile and shit you think you want and it doesn't happen, don't get frustrated. Just sit in silence. Try to seek what the answers to your questions from the universe, from God, and then start fresh.
That's true. You take that quiet time. But I always joked about that too. I always said that God has a sense of humor with me. Like and so when you made that statement, so say it one more time. So if you want to make God laugh, right? Make plans.
Make plans.
And because I'll do things, and you have to have a sense of humor. I've learned over the years, and I didn't for a long time. Even though I did have a sense of humor, I didn't have a sense of humor with certain things, and so I would get really upset, pissed off, envious, jealous, sad, depressed, whatever. And I have my moments, and thank God, because Gladiator Guru is my coach. And she's actually my daughter's coach too. So she brings to me like this, she reminds me, she's that one voice that's always like sticking it to say, don't, when you start to feel that low, redirect yourself, think about something else. So and I've had to have a sense of humor about stuff, and and sometimes I picture, that the poem Footprints in the Sand. And it says, why at my lowest times, there was only one set, you left me. And he says, my dear child, I carried you. See, I see that with God for me, but I also see that the one set of footprints, I'm walking and he's on my back laughing. Like he's going, come on, get your ass moving. This is, so it swaps. The one set of footprints is him carrying me, but it's also me carrying God, laughing and going, see, I told you, now just keep moving. Just keep moving. Wouldn't that be a great cartoon, though? The Footprints of the Sand, and really it's the other way around. God's sitting there going, seriously, you just got to get past yourself. Keep moving forward.
Yeah, because, free will says a lot about what we're going to do. But I just think that if you follow your heart, if you pray on something, if you believe in something, and then you set out and you do it without all the interruptions, all the voices from everybody else's opinion about your life, you can smoothly travel towards where you want to go to. We get so caught up in asking everybody advice, especially sharing our vision with people with no goals, and then the negativity comes out. Then you got the energies that are floating around you of doubt,
yes,
of failure, impending failure. And I think that when you want to do something, and people especially see, I take that as ammunition. When somebody's like, you're really going to do that? I don't think that's going to work. And then I'm like, I got this. Because to me, that's my ammunition that I'm on the right path. And even with some of the stuff I'm doing now, people are like, are you crazy? That's going to be time consuming. When are you going to find the time? I got the time. It's about, making my schedule flexible. All I know is while I'm taking care of my mom, I have a solid 2 hours in between diaper changes and meals. So I have a solid 2 hours to myself to work on what I got to work on. And if I can't make shit happen in 2 hours, 30 to 40 minutes, and changing the diaper, sitting her back down, putting her food in front of her, waiting for her to eat it, because mom's dementia has gotten to, if I, I sent you a text last night and I sent it by accident to my niece. She's like, huh? Because lately she's been trying to stand up. She's like, she'll move her food tray and she's trying to get up, talk about, and then she tries to get up holding the plates. She don't have no balance holding onto the wall. She wants to rise with plates. So I have to wait for her to finish eating. And then I sit her back to the point where she cannot get up on her own. So, but I mean, we all have the time. We all have the same amount of time in a day. So don't look at the next person who has become successful, because that shit didn't happen overnight. Oh. They put in the work. And a lot of us look at people whose business, I don't care if you have a food truck, a coffee cart, whatever, and you see them thriving, you think they were lucky or blessed, or they sold their soul to the devil. People come up with all these scenarios without speaking the truth. They are where they at because they put the work in. They cultivated that self-awareness, that self-care, and that self-love in following their dreams. And that's all that we need to do. And it doesn't matter what it is that we're doing. If we believe in it, follow your dream and cultivate it. It's your garden. Be the gardener of your life, and make sure you're watering and you're weeding and you're making. That's what you have to do. And when you have a garden, you got to make sure you keep the insects out that are going to bite on your stuff and ruin them. That's people too. That's people that we keep around because either they're family or they're longtime friends, but their negativity chips away at us.
Yes.
So you have,
and it sometimes it could be very subtle. Just a little chip, right? It's just like, if you could take down a tree with a chainsaw, you could take down a tree with an axe, you could take down a tree with a little chisel, but it just takes longer, and you keep chipping and chipping and chipping, and then eventually that tree is going to fall. It's the same thing with people, and nobody understands your vision better than you. So Gladiator Guru is right. Don't waste your time sharing your vision with people who have no goals or visions, or they might have had visions of their own, but they never followed through. And those are the worst ones, because they will squash you down because they didn't follow through with their thing. And then they don't want you to succeed either. And it might not be even conscious. Like they might say, oh no, I want the best for that person. But then subconsciously they really don't. So they sabotage, they say one thing. What's that expression we said yesterday? We're not going to say who we were talking about, but right. Talking out of your ass. They say one thing a year and something else, elsewhere. So absolutely. And, this is a good segue, Guru, into the wisdom, because the insight that you have gained in what you're saying, and as well as myself, where did this all come from? Where did you create the insight that you have over the years? I mean, it's a combination of places, but what do you think?
For me, it was the gardener of my roots, el jardinero de mis raíces, which is my father. Mm-hmm. And I write about it and I talk about it, and how he was what society would deem a good father. He lacked all of that, but the seeds he planted in us as children that we didn't understand. And when I believe for the most of my siblings, and if my brother's still watching, I hope he can say something, that I think that those seeds started growing out when Dad died. Like he set us up. Like that was our inheritance from him. He took the time to cultivate our gardens and planted seeds of wisdom, so that in the time when we would need it the most, that's when that epiphany would come. That's when we would say, oh, this is what Daddy meant. And when I get together with my siblings and we start talking about Dad, it's always the same thing. We all receive the same gifts from him. Now, all the seeds he planted in our gardens, they all differed, but it's just to know that this man who can face the devil, yet not his reflection in the mirror, knew how to cultivate the right seeds for each of our soils. And that's where I think the majority of us gets our wisdom from El Jardinero de mis Raíces, because that's exactly what he did. And I remember being like 3 years old. We were talking about the other day how far back you can remember. And he this phrase, he always said it throughout. But he always said, "Nunca te engañes," and never lie to yourself.
Hmm.
And I'll give you a little thing for those listening. That's one of the generations of wisdom, was that, because when we lie to ourselves and then we become oblivious to what's around us, and then when it smacks us in the fucking face, because that's the way the truth is, then we want to blame everybody who was around us, that they hurt us and how dare they when I've been good to them. And we need to stop that, because that's how we never get over. And that's how we fog our brains with all this anger and resentment and wounds, that the wisdom that should have accompanied that lesson gets left outside of us.
And I got to tell you, that was how I lived the majority of my adult life. Truly, not knowing my own truth. And exactly what you said, Guru, is exactly what happened. That I was so disconnected from myself. I didn't know my truth. Therefore, see, here's the thing: if you don't know your truth and you're disconnected from yourself, you have no ability to see what's around you either. So you cannot see what's in front of you, even when it's like literally in front of you. You will still second guess, because if you can't be true to yourself, you cannot see with truthful eyes. And so that's how I lived my life, and it literally smacked the shit out of me at age 45. And and when I looked back, as I was growing, as I was transforming and letting go of that piece of me, I started to look at, like, where did this come from? Why was I like this? Blah, blah, blah. And I realized, like, that was my whole upbringing. My whole family was like that. And I don't mean my extended family, my immediate family, my parents, my siblings, I myself, just a wealth of inconsistencies. So when we talk about generations of wisdom, it's not just about what an individual says, whether it's a family member or a family friend, or or a teacher. It's what they say, and it's how they live their life. It's their actions as well. And the wisdom doesn't have to be this, like, beautiful piece, like this they say these words and that resonates with you. Oh my God, those words, I took those words with me. It could be the bad crap too, if you gain insight and knowledge from that experience and from what they did. Like Gladiator Guru talks about her dad, and he was philosophically an amazing man, but she knows that there was the other side, and it's both sides is what she gained wisdom from. She created who she was from both sides, but she took the words. Those were, I mean, if I'll tell you what, those are powerful words. And we've talked about this before, where her father was probably deep down a very high spirited prophet. Like, he was like a prophet. But sometimes when you come down to these realities, when you come down to our real life, it's so hard to live in this world. And that's why we do other things, like we get involved with other things to because we can't handle ourselves. And I'm not saying it to make an excuse. I'm just saying that I've seen people who were the most unbelievable, like, when you got down into them, they were incredibly wise, like these spirit guides that were sent down, but they couldn't handle the body that they were given, and they couldn't handle the world, and the world couldn't handle them, so they resorted to other things. But anyway, I don't want to go into that direction, but I'm just saying,
I totally agree. It's like this. Where's Bobby Fischer? A genius. They don't even talk enough about Bobby Fischer. This chess player was such a genius, and he just disappeared. And I bring that up to say, absolutely, there's people that their gift seemed more like a burden to them because they didn't know how to disperse it, when to disperse it. So they tried to dim it with drugs, with alcohol, with sex, anything that was addictive that kept them, unshielded, so that they wouldn't have to deal with what their purpose was, which be the messengers of truth, the messengers of life, to be that beacon and that lighthouse that would get us home safely. And with those words, it did a lot of good, you know. And so he taught us like at 14, he insisted that I learn how to read and write in Spanish, and I did. Then he would read from me the vocero in Puerto Rico. He educated me on the histories going back, of the independence and all of that. And it was such rich history that I carried it. I taught it to my kids. I'll speak it to whomever wants to listen to it. And because our culture, our traditions, our history is so rich that people, even our own people, want to talk about how Puerto Ricans are lazy and all of that. And he said, never do that to your people. There's always a reason why things are the way they are. You know, things aren't always what they seem, he would say.
Correct.
And that it's true. So, I mean, my generations of wisdom, I mean, to honor family, no matter what. He didn't, you know, he had issues with some siblings and everything, but he still honored them. He still respected them when he saw them. He taught us to respect our elders at all costs, you know. And for me, he taught me always stand up for what you believe in, even if you stand alone. And I know that's such a cliched little quote, but when it comes from somebody that you love and you honor and you value, it sticks more than when you read it somewhere. And that's why a lot of the insights that I carried into my adulthood is because when he taught me that, I always stand up for what I believe in. And, you know, my motto is,
yes, she does.
I may not be for everyone, but I am always for myself. Because if I don't stand up for what I believe in and I'm too worried about what everybody else's opinion is going to be, I'm giving my life away. It's like I have the honor to create my own dress, but yet all these people are poking their finger and telling me how to cut and how to sew. And before you know it, all the threads tangled and I'm left with shit. That's how life is. So be your own seamstress and, you know, cultivate your garden according to what your beliefs are. And if you don't know what your beliefs are, then take the time out to learn yourself. Because if you don't know yourself, then you're not going to know what the hell you're feeding your soul.
No, right, exactly. And you, let me tell you, you can get lost for years in that. I did. And who is right? You cannot blame anybody but yourself. Again, we talk about this ad nauseum. I mean, we've talked about this so many times. Any circumstance that happens, you know, there's other people involved. It's a common, you know, it takes more than one person, but you're only responsible for yourself. So if you're very lost within yourself, then you need to find yourself. So if you say, well, how do I find yourself? Then start looking back, you know, like this is the whole point of this conversation. It's generations of wisdom. You know, I was looking for a picture specifically because I was going to post it. So I was going through my bin remember back in the day when you actually had pictures and you like had them sitting in a bin. So I have this bin of pictures from years ago and I was looking and I came across like other pictures. So of course that sidetracked me, but it was nice to have the memory and I was looking at that. And, you know, that helps you sometimes. That helps you look at where you were. That helps you think about what was going on in your life at that time. And when we came up with this idea, I thought, oh, this is going to be fun. We're going to talk about, you know, the wisdom we've gained over the years from our family and blah, blah, blah. And I started to think about this and this is going to sound so terrible, but I'm saying this with, I love my mom and dad dearly. I do. I would do anything for them. But when it comes to wisdom over the years, there was more negative stuff that I learned from them of what not to do. So there was wisdom. It's just like, it wasn't profound, like Gladiator Guru was saying, you know? So I think I made me a little disappointed. I was like, you know, I don't remember my parents ever really saying anything of significance or anything bold or anything like that, even doing it, because they were always led by their own insecurities. So I'm like, okay, let me go back a generation, you know, let me see. And then I thought of my mom's dad. My grandfather came here from Italy. And, you know, he came here as a teenager. He didn't speak English. He learned English. And then when he started his family here, he was so proud to be in the United States that it's not that they gave up their culture at all. You know, they lived in the Bronx, they lived in an Italian neighborhood, they had all their friends were Italian. They spoke Italian all the time, but he said to my mother and her siblings, the America is the land of opportunity. Look at me. I came here with nothing, and look what I've created. And he was a contractor. He was a builder, and he had his own business. So he worked his butt off. He got, but he loved what he was doing. He was so proud to be here. And he told them, you know, be proud, work hard, you know, don't take anything for granted. You've been given all these great gifts. And he laid that foundation, which was absolutely fantastic. And, you know, my mom shared that with me. And I was young when my grandfather died. I was like 9. So my older cousins and my siblings got to really experience him. They even worked with him. But he, you know, they even said it, like, that's how he was. He was a gentleman, and he was just, but he was tough at the same time. And so that really resonated with me. That really stuck with me, you know, that to just always be proud of where you came from, who you are right now, and push forward. And that's the wisdom that I got from him with that.
Yeah. And that's good that you got it. And I'm going to, for those out there who do have your grandparents or your elder aunts and uncles, ask them about how it was for them growing up. Because a lot of them, they just go on through life. And I always was inquisitive. I always asked this and that. And I learned my grandmother and how her mother was. And I think that if we question them, tell us a little about how you grew up, and then get lost while they're telling the story, visualize yourself there, because you'll learn certain things. And then the thing is that when you question them and they're explaining something to you, like my grandmother told me that my grandfather used to come by in a horse, right, with people. He was older. My grandfather was 25 years older than my grandmother. My grandmother's mom had 8 kids. So she married my grandmother to my grandfather when my grandmother was only 13.
Which was not uncommon back then. I mean,
it wasn't,
marriages, and I mean, we don't agree with it now, but that was, you know, 13 is young, but I get that.
Yeah, it is. So inquire about that stuff, and try to adapt to it. And, you know, the history of Puerto Rico that I have a love affair with is because the way my father would read the vocero to me with so much passion and conviction, and then explain to me the story about what was going on. And then he, you know, I just learned it all. And I just say, you know what, you need to sit with your parents, you need to sit with your grandparents, and that's a part of the tapestry of your soul. Everything they started before you, and then you come along, it's in your DNA. Learn, because sometimes we think that we're alone, or we don't have the strength, or we're crazy for thinking we can do that. And unbeknownst to you, your great grandmother or grandfather started this, and it skipped a couple generations, and now you got this spirit of entrepreneurship, and you're going to go out there and you're going to conquer the world. And sometimes we feel we're alone in this, and we're not. But you know what? Again, the whole thing, you got to put in the work. It's also going back and learning about your ancestors, because they all play a role in our spirit today. And because I'm a spiritual person, that always, I find that truth in everything. But if you're not, figure it out. But you're not alone in this world. You're not Einstein. You didn't just pull this out your ass. It's something that comes down the line of your ancestry. So look at it.
Right. So Chanel said, record it too. We can all do it on phones now. Yeah. I mean, record your history in any way you can. Interview, you know, family members. And, you know, I want to also be clear about something too. You know, when we say generations of wisdom, we're not just talking about our own family. You know, you could have the crappiest family ever, and you have no real connection to your family, but you were really connected to your friend's family. You know, I mean, I grew up, and when I was a teen, my best friend at the time, like her mother, became my mom. My mom worked all the time. She was never around. I didn't connect with her at all, but her mom I did. And we had a lot of conversations, and she was great to talk to. She was So and that family, they were like RVers, like they would go camping, and my family, God forbid, they went into a tent or they went into a camper. And it was that family that got me to really like being outdoors and being family. They used to do a lot of family camping trips and all that stuff. And at that point, when I was in my teens, my parents both worked a lot. My siblings were older. They were out of the house, and my parents didn't go anywhere. So I gained a lot of wisdom from that, my friend's family too. And it was, you can gain wisdom from anybody. And it's just a matter of knowing when you hear it coming in, you have to let it sit with you. Like, if sometimes you right away, you could think, oh my God, this is fabulous, I love hearing this. Or it could be bothersome to you. But the question sometimes to ask yourself is, why is it bothering me? Like, if this person's saying this, what's maybe I need to hear this. And rather than going into our headspace and go, oh, I want to close out to it. Just listen. Maybe it's a message. Because it's interesting, I've noticed over the years, is when you open yourself up to people, and you like, I could talk to anybody. I mean, I talk to the checkout person when I'm, like, my family hates going to the store with me because I start conversations with everybody. But it's amazing, the moment you open up just a little bit to certain people, they will share things with you. And I've had people say things to me that in my head I'm going, wow, that's pretty bold to say that to me. You don't even know me,
TMI.
But or they'll say something about me. Like, it's not that they're giving me information on them. They'll say, oh, you know what you should do, or you should. And I just sit there smiling, because in the past I put a block up and go, who the freak are you to tell me? You don't even know me, But then I thought, what if this really is a message? Like, what if this is an individual who's sent down plot, right? You ever have that moment where all of a sudden this person comes up to you and says something to you, and you're like, who is this? Like, why are you saying this to me? And I kind of believe, I believe that there's reasons. So wisdom is everywhere, but the key part about wisdom is how we use it. It's just words if we don't use it and put meaning to it. So what your father said to you, Guru, are just words. It's just that they had meaning to you and to your siblings, and he instilled it over and over again, and he put the meaning and the emotion to it. So that was the wisdom. You could have looked at him and go, yeah, you're stupid, I don't want to know any of that stuff, and just let it go. Oh, he used to say this all the time. There's no wisdom there. But you made it the wisdom because it was important to you. It became something that was really, really meaningful and deep.
Well, yeah, because a stupid person is the one that would think that what the other person is sharing is stupid, especially your elders. So absolutely. I just think that the generations of wisdom comes with the generations of curses. And my father was both. So it's about acknowledging the negatives that he carried, which more likely than not overshadowed the wisdom. But it's about going over it with a fine-tooth comb and realizing that what he was battling was bigger than I was. But in his battles, where he suffered tremendously, he still had the energy to teach us wisdom. So it's about being a spectator and viewing somebody and really looking at what's going on and saying they're battling something, but yet they're still trying to, how they throw you that line of hope. And that's what he did. And, having the gift of insight, I think that was beautiful. Having my open spirituality, where I believe in the supernatural and I believe in angels and demons and all of that. I do believe when somebody comes up to you that, yes, there's messages. There's advertencias, there's warnings that you got to listen in between what they're saying. You got to read body language. And then there's a guide, like telling you, okay, you had plans to go here today. I think you need to go here. And it's about us unfucking our minds to open up and listen, whether we're going to utilize what we're being told or what's being said or not. But just give yourself the opportunity to listen to it, to acknowledge it, and feel it, and then decide whether you're going to accept to keep it or not. But you're only cheating yourself, because we could be at a place where, I'll give you a for instance, we could be at a place where we did something stupid, and then now we're beating ourselves up, and then somebody comes like my mom and tells me, well, die, bitch, because no one told you to get high. So now you're like, well, then I'm worthless, I'm taking up space in this world, right? But then I sashayed my ass like 4 blocks down the street to my dad's house, and I told him what happened, and he sat with me for 2 hours and gave me the pros and cons about smoking weed, and I never touched it after that. But had I not spoken to him and listened to my mother say that, instead of assisting me, she's telling me, well, die, bitch, nobody told you, I would have probably escalated and venturing out into other different avenues. So it's about being aware and soaking it all in, and then you take inventory of your thoughts. Well, no, he said this, but that's just not for me. It doesn't fit my personality. It's not sitting well with my spirit. But then again, you cannot do that until you learn how to cultivate self-love and self-care, when you can actually take inventory of everything about you, body, mind, and spirit, and says, well, this goes to the garbage. Maybe this I can gift it to somebody, and this is definitely staying in my armory. And if we can learn how to do that, take that feather, stick it in your fedora, because that's the ammunition for you to battle something going forward.
Right. But, and you have, so Tiffany said, I love spending time and talking to my elders. I gain many nuggets of gold just by listening. Absolutely. You're not going to agree with everything, especially, it's interesting, as we age, we feel the need to share the wisdom. And when you're younger, you feel the need to not take it in because you don't need it and you know everything. And then somewhere along the line, you shift. So it's like when you're middle age, you sort of shift. You're like, boy, I wish I asked more questions to my older family members that are no longer here. Or I wish I learned this, or maybe I did learn this. And so in the end, it's not just about the wisdom that you've gained over the years from other people, from family or close friends. It's also, remember, you play a role here too. So the more you get to know it yourself and take what you've learned over the years, insight, good and bad, then you create your own wisdom out of this. And then it is your job to share. Because what I'm seeing these days, we're so disconnected. Sometimes it's purposeful, sometimes it's not. But because we're so busy, we make an assumption that the younger generation is just, oh, well, they're seeing it, they're hearing it, they're understanding it. How do they see, hear, and understand when they're in their room on the opposite side of the house with their phone and not hearing you, being around you and listening to the stories? I grew up, that's one thing I will say that I loved with being with my family. We used to go to my grandmother's all the time in Yonkers, and everybody, they were talking about my mother's side of the family, and all my uncles and my cousins would go there and they would tell stories. And, you heard the stories over and over again, but you didn't care because they were funny stories and they were interesting stories and they were, but that's the whole point, is you share these stories. How often do we do that now? See, wisdom can come from these stories. And like, I didn't know some of the things, like my great grandmother, my grandmother's mother, was unbelievably like independent for that generation. Like we're talking, she was born in like the late 1800s, but she was like a ballsy lady. And my mother would share stories and I'd be like, damn, really? Like your grandmother did that? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, but that was so out of character for women back then. She's like, I know. And the irony is that my mother wasn't that way. My mother was not ballsy at all. My mother was a very 50s mom, like very 50s type of personality. You go with the norm and the social blah, blah, blah. But her grandmother wasn't like, her grandmother got shit done. Her grandmother, like, if something needed to be, like, back then, women didn't buy real estate. Like, it was always the husband and blah, blah, blah. And even though that was still part of it, she said to my great grandfather, we're moving. Like, I want to move. I don't like this house. It's not big enough anymore. She went out. She found the house she wanted. She got the real estate agent. She told him she wanted to see it. He goes, "Don't you want to wait for your husband?" She goes, "No." She goes, "I'm the one who's making the decision." She went into the house with the agent. She liked it. She said, "Okay, my husband's going to come over and he's going to pay you and we're going to buy the house." That was it. That's the way it went. And she sent her husband over there and they made the deal because she didn't work. So it was just, it's funny, and to me, I look at that and go, that's some freaking balls, like she was a badass in her time. My mother shared a story that when she and her cousin were teenagers, they were sitting on this rock wall at her cousin's house. And all of a sudden her grandmother was across the street. And all of a sudden her grandmother just ran and leaped over the rock wall. And they both were like, did grandma just do that? But nowadays that's common, there's glamas now. You don't have everybody defies their age, but back then, but that's what it takes. It takes that one person to really break the barriers. And so she was a badass back then. And I think to myself, I feel like I connect with her, that independent badass, where that comes from with me, where I hid for so long because I was guided by people who were so afraid to be who they were. She wasn't afraid to be who she was. So that's the wisdom that I gained from her. And that was due to stories that were told by my parents, by my aunts and uncles.
Yeah, but see, that's beautiful that you even got to listen to those stories, because you can always pull from them when you're about to embark on a new journey with difficult decisions that must be made. See, sometimes what they say that should not only affect us once. We should always keep that in our inventory, like and when you have your email and you save certain messages in different folders that you can go back to and pull from it. And the thing is, we become so lazy, we just deal with what's right in front of our nose, and then we wonder why we keep falling on our asses. So that was a good story right there, because then it kind of like connects you to something. Like, because generations of wisdom and curses, or anything, they normally skip a generation or two. So for you to associate yourself with your great grandmother, that right there is an eye opener.
Yes,
because we get so stuck on the negativity of our actual mother, who was supposed to serve and protect us above everything else. And when they fail to the point where we even question our existence at a certain age, you gotta leap back. You gotta go backwards. And that's why it is important to learn your lineage. It is important to know who was who and what did what. And no wonder my sister's asshole, because this grandparent was like that, or my brother's such a jerk because our grandfather was an alcoholic. So I mean, or why I'm Captain Save-A-Hole because my grandmother always had a house full of people feeding them. Well, that was my mother. So I mean, you must go back so that you can find that connection, and then that's another way to pave your road. To start shoveling out all the stones that are in your way and causing roadblocks, so that you can pave it, so that because then you have your army of ancestors behind you cheering you on. That's your cheerleading squad. They got your back. So I mean, everything you have to believe in the supernatural. Everything also is of spirit. If you believe in God, then He's a God of spirit. So there's spirits, there's guardian angels that will direct you. So stop being stupid and stubborn, thinking you have all the answers, because we don't. We really don't. And that right there is one of the wisdoms that my father always taught us to always believe in something outside of ourselves. But one of the main things, before we even reach out, I just want to share one of the main things he taught that I carry with me all the time. And if you read my personal blog, there's something called El Jardinero de Mis Raíces, which is about my dad, and I go in depth about it. But he always says, believe nothing of what you hear, half of what you see, and everything of what you feel. And we were raised on that. Why? Because people gossip. People who don't like somebody that we are connected to will come and tell us a story about it. And then we could be walking in halfway through something and only witness the end part, not knowing how they provoked that scenario to occur by what they did.
And it's one person's story, right?
Yeah. So you have to learn how to cultivate self-awareness, self-trust, and self-love, because then you'll be able to sit back and be that, Inspector Gadget, and look at something and kind of know how it really flowed, And I just think that when you take care of yourself, you are actually tending to your ancestors who are always there with you, and they're always guiding you. So I just
Editha says she says my grandma was a Captain Save-A-Ho as my mom and me.
how's that working out for you?
And Editha, you know what? My grandmother was my mother's mother and my mother were that way. But the irony was that my great grandmother, she was a typical Italian, mom. Like she handled shit, and she was the matriarch, but she made people accountable. And then it trickled down where my grandmother was a tough cookie too, not in a mean way. She was a tough cookie too, but she took a lot of crap from her mother-in-law, and she allowed that to happen. And then came down to my mom, and my mom was just the weakest link of the whole thing. And I don't mean it again. I mean, I love my mother, and I don't mean it in a mean way. It's just an observation, because I see it to this day. My mother's in her 80s, and she will still give in to people. She will still not say no when she'll say yes when she really wants to say no. And I've seen what it's done to her over the years. And instead of me looking at it going, oh, that's pathetic and blah, 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 which I did for a little while, I got very angry about it. But then I just said, that was her path then. And so what did I learn from this? What did I learn from my generations of strong women in my family? And what am I going to give to my daughters? Because that's what I have, are all girls. So what am I getting? So the wisdom starts now. What wisdom you gained from whoever in your life, now it's your turn to take that and start spreading that, even if they don't want to hear it. You just keep spreading it. But here's the catch, though. The real true wisdom has to do with, especially, is that you live it. It means nothing. It's when you say it and you're not living it. Like your dad, he was troubled, but he did live the wisdom that was coming out of his mouth. He was troubled in other ways, but he lived that peace. So what he was saying, he was living. And that is a really big piece here. So you have to ask yourself, that's why the truth within you has to come out. You have to say, if I'm saying this, am I living it? Am I actually living it? And then you keep saying it. And believe me, your children, your grandchildren, they will hear it. They will hear it. And they might not want to receive it just yet, but it's in there, it's recording. And then one day they're going to be like, wow, how much I love when my kids say to me, Mom, you were right. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. What? What did you say? Say that again, one more time. But I joke about it with them, but I love that. And then not because I want to be right. It's because what I said to them, what they said that I was right about, was something that was so important for me to get them to know. So, so just remember, like, this is generations of wisdom. You are a generation. You have to start passing this down too. So that means you have to decide who you are and be who you are. Be the best version of yourself.
You must, because it is your job. It is your duty. And that's why you exist, is to lead the way for those coming behind you. And so with that, I would say, you know what? At our age, we have to start, or if not, we have to either assist in watering those seeds or make sure that we're cultivating gardens for those coming up behind us, especially our children. For me, my grandchildren, which they have that, because my 18-year-old granddaughter, my 14-year-old grandson, they always call me Wela. And then they'll tell me, listen, what do you think about this? So I've already started cultivating that garden a long time ago. Yeah. And my kids do that all the time too. But you know what? We're not always right. Sometimes we have to shut down and inquire within. What do I have? What's in my armory? What type of ammunition that I have that I can have to push forward to people. And that's what it's about. It's about being aware and, check yourself. You got to constantly check yourself. When your thoughts are going one way and your actions are following it, you need to lasso your ass right back into the bullpen and reevaluate what your steps are going to be. And sometimes we're lucky that we're going to have people in our lives to do that. But when we don't, we have to be responsible for ourselves. We have to say, wait a minute, what am I doing? And go back and start again.
Yep. And with that, I'm going to remind you that so I have so much fun with this thing. So Thursday's show, how's that, Guru? Does that look good? We have our wonderful guest, Jonathan Pookie Cruz, is back from the barbershop. So we're going to be talking about life on your terms. So we're talking about what would that look like? You know, how would it be to live the life that you really want to live? And is it impossible to do? And he's a great example of it because he decided to do certain things and make certain changes, and he made it happen. So we're going to be talking to Jonathan on Thursday, and we got to go. I got to go school my kid. And we thank you so much for coming on as usual. Any last words, Guru, before we do our sign off?
No, I want to thank everybody who commented today, because I think sometimes we are in search of something, but we don't know what, or sometimes we're going around feeling half-assed, and it's because we need to be reminded of something. So I think for me, this show helped me go back and remind some stuff about myself and how to repack my mochila, my backpack, so that my journey would stay on task. So I thank you all for your comments.
Yes, definitely. And again, we love the engagement. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Share us on YouTube, like us, follow us, the whole thing. We need to make Viva like really hit the, what we needed to rocket launch this year. And you're coming with us. That's the thing. It's not just about us. It's about you guys. And this is really important. These conversations are really great. And if it triggers something with you, then, seek it. Decide how to keep moving forward. What do you need? What help do you need? And ask for the help, whether you work with a coach or a mentor or a therapist or just do your own research. Either way, this is about you and about your growth. So that being said, so we'll see you guys on Thursday. Thank you so much for coming on this morning. And from the Badass Buddha, remember, be you, be real, and be extraordinary.
And remember, mi gente, if you don't do it once a day, do it several times a day. Breathe in the beauty and breathe out the bullshit. Namaste.
Namaste, everybody.